After the fall of the Safavid Empire in 1722, Iran descended into chaos. Afghan invasions, civil wars, and struggles for power weakened the entire country. Then, Nader Shah rose to power. He was an extremely fierce and skilled military commander. He invaded India, looted Delhi, and took away the Peacock throne and the Koh-i-Noor diamond. But after his death, chaos once again spread across Iran. Eventually, the Qajar dynasty came to power. In 1796, the Qajar dynasty officially began ruling Iran. During this period, European powers were rapidly becoming stronger. In particular, Britain and Russia started expanding their influence over Iran. Russia wanted to control the Caucasus region, while Britain aimed to keep Iran under influence in order to protect India. As a result, Iran became the center of rivalry. Between the two powers, Iran was defeated in several wars against Russia and lost Armenia, Azerbaijan, and large parts of the Caucasus. This created a deep sense of humiliation among Iranians. The constitutional revolution by the late 19th century, public anger in Iran was growing due to corruption and foreign control. The kings granted many privileges to European companies, and the country's wealth was increasingly falling into foreign hands. In 1905, the constitutional revolution began. Merchants, students, religious scholars, and ordinary citizens all joined the movement. They demanded limitation of royal power. A constitution. The establishment of a parliament. Finally, in 1906, Iran formed a parliament. It became one of the first constitutional movements in the Middle East. Discovery of oil in 1908, Iran's history changed dramatically when massive oil reserves were discovered in southern Iran. The British quickly established the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, which later became British Petroleum, BP. Oil made Iran strategically important, but most of the profits went to foreigners, increasing public resentment even more. World War I, and Iran was officially neutral during World War I. However, in reality, British, Russian, and Ottoman forces occupied different parts of the country. The war caused famine and chaos. Millions of people suffered, and Iran became even weaker. Rise of Reza Khani in 1921, a military officer named Reza Khan launched a coup. Gradually, he seized power. In 1925, he ended the Qajar dynasty and declared himself Shah, marking the beginning of the Pahlavi dynasty. Reza Shah's modernization. Reza Shah wanted to transform Iran into a modern and powerful state. He introduced major reforms, including a modern army, railways, factories and industries, modern education, new courts and legal systems. He also promoted Western-style clothing and tried to reduce the power of religious leaders. In 1935, the international name Persia was officially changed to Iran. World War II. During World War II, Reza Shah was strengthening relations with Germany. Britain and the Soviet Union became concerned. In 1941, they invaded Iran and forced Reza Shah to abdicate. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, became the new Shah Dosmi. Beginning of the Cold War. After World War II, the world became divided into two major blocs, the United States. The Soviet Union. Iran became an important region in the Cold War because of its vast oil reserves, its border with the Soviet Union, its strategic location in the Middle East, Mossadegh and oil nationalization. In 1951, Mohammad Mossadegh became prime minister. He was a highly popular nationalist leader. His most important decision was the nationalization of Iran's oil industry. Britain became furious because it had been earning enormous profits from Iranian oil. The CIA coup of 1953, Britain and the United States decided to remove Mossadegh from power. The CIA and MI6 carried out Operation Ajax. In 1953, Mossadegh was overthrown in a coup and the Shah regained full authority. To this day, many Iranians deeply resent this event because they believe foreign powers destroyed Iran's democracy. After the coup, the Shah's rule. After the Sharia coup, the Shah gradually became more authoritarian. He was a close ally of the United States. A secret police force called Savak was used to suppress opposition. Many people were arrested, tortured, and silenced. At the same time, however, Iran was modernizing rapidly. The White Revolution in 1963, the Shah launched the White Revolution. It included land reforms, women's voting rights, expansion of education. Industrialization. The Shah wanted to build a rapidly modern state. However, many religious leaders opposed these reforms because they believed Western culture was destroying Islamic values. The rise of Khomeini during this period, a religious leader became increasingly popular, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. He strongly criticized the Shah's policies. Khomeini claimed the Shah was a servant of the West. Islam was under threat. Iran's wealth was being handed over to foreigners in 1964. He was sent into exile. But even from abroad, his speeches and messages secretly spread throughout Iran. The fire of revolution in the 1970s, major changes began in Iran. Oil wealth was making the country richer, but inequality was also growing. People were migrating. From villages to cities, unemployment was rising. On one side were luxurious royal palaces, while ordinary people struggled with poverty and hardship. Political repression also intensified. As a result, students, leftists, and Islamists all united against the Shah. The Islamic Revolution of 1979 in 1978, massive protests erupted across Iran. The military failed to stop the movement. In January 1979, the Shah fled the country. Soon after, Khomeini returned to Iran. Millions of people welcomed him. The monarchy collapsed, and Iran became the Islamic Republic. The Islamic Republic, under the new system, religious leaders gained enormous power. The supreme leader became the most powerful figure in the state. Islamic laws were introduced. Mandatory hijab laws were imposed on women. Strict controls were placed on Western culture. The U.S. Embassy hostage crisis. In 1979, a group of revolutionary students seized the American embassy in Tehran. They took 52 Americans hostage. The crisis lasted for 404 days and completely destroyed relations between the United States and Iran. Even today, relations between the two countries remain extremely tense. The Iran-Iraq War in 1980. Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein invaded Iran. He believed Iran had become weak after the revolution, but the war turned into a devastating conflict lasting 8 years. Millions of people were killed. Chemical weapons were used. Even child soldiers participated in the war. Eventually, the war ended without a clear winner. Iran. After the revolution, after the war, Iran began rebuilding itself. The country tried to balance religious rule with a modern state structure. Iran increased investment in science, education, and military power. In particular, Iran became stronger in missile technology, drone technology, military research. The nuclear program. Iran's nuclear program became a major international controversy. Iran claims its program is for peaceful energy purposes. However, Western countries suspect that Iran wants to develop nuclear weapons. A result, severe international sanctions were imposed on Iran. Iran's influence in the Middle East. Today, Iran is not just a country, it is one of the major powers in the Middle East. Iran has expanded its influence in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. Yemen in particular, Iran maintains a close relationship with Hezbollah. Because of this, tensions between Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Israel have increased significantly. Iranian society. Modern Iran is a very complex society. On one side, there are strict religious laws. On the other side, there is a modern, educated young generation. Women play important roles in education and the workforce. At the same time, however, strict social restrictions still exist. The internet, social media, and globalization are bringing new changes to Iranian society. Economy and sanctions. Iran possesses enormous oil and gas reserves. However, international sanctions have weakened the economy. Inflation and unemployment remain major problems. Despite this, Iran continues trying to develop its own industries and military technologies. The identity of modern Iran. Modern Iran carries the legacy of ancient Persia while also being a state born from an Islamic revolution. In Iran, we can see all of these existing together. Thousands of years of history, religious rule, modern technology, political conflict, nationalism. This complex identity has made Iran one of the most important countries in the world. On one side stands the world's most powerful country, the United States. On the other side stands one of the Middle East's most influential states, Iran. Today, when we hear about America and Iran, images often come to mind. Warships, economic sanctions, nuclear programs, secret operations, proxy wars, threats of war. But the question is, why are relations between these two countries so hostile? Were they always enemies, or were they once close allies? Why did the CIA organize a coup in Iran in 1953? Why did relations completely collapse after the Islamic Revolution of 1979? Why did America call Iran part of the axis of evil? And why does the shadow of these two countries appear in nearly every conflict in the Middle East today? 401, the beginning of U.S.-Iran. Relations, contrary to today's hostility, the United States and Iran were not always enemies. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, many Iranians viewed America positively because Britain and Russia were heavily interfering in Iran at the time. Unlike European powers, America was not yet seen as a colonial force in Iran. Many American teachers, doctors, and missionaries worked in the country. Iranians believed America was different from the European empires. Oil discovery and foreign interest in 1908, massive oil reserves were discovered in Iran. From that moment, Iran became extremely important to global powers. The British established the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. Although huge profits were earned from Iranian oil, ordinary Iranians received very little benefit. This injustice later became one of the main causes of nationalist movements in Iran. World War II and America's growing role during World War II. Iran became an important supply route. Britain and the Soviet Union occupied the country. Reza Shah was forced to step down. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, became Shah. From this period onward, American influence in Iran began to grow rapidly because, by then, the Cold War had already started. The Cold War and Iran's importance. After World War II, the world became divided between the United States. The Soviet Union Iran was located very close to the Soviet border. In addition, Iran's enormous oil reserves were critically important to the West. As a result, America wanted Iran to remain part of the Western Bloc. The rise of Mohammad Mossadegh in 1951, Mohammad Mossadegh became Prime Minister of Iran. He was a nationalist leader. His most important decision was the nationalization of Iran's oil industry. This caused major losses for British companies. Britain wanted Mossadegh removed from power, although America was initially uncertain about the idea. The CIA coup, Operation Ajax, during the Cold War, the United States feared that Iran might fall under Soviet influence. Britain convinced America that Mossadegh was dangerous. Eventually, the CIA and British MI6 jointly carried out Operation Ajax. In 1953, Mossadegh was overthrown and the Shah returned to power. This event became the foundation of modern hostility between America and Iran. Many Iranians believe that America destroyed their democracy. The Shah and America's alliance after the coup, the Shah became one of America's closest allies in the Middle East. The United States provided him with money weapons. Intelligence support Iran became one of America's most important strategic partners in the region. The Shah pushed rapid modernization, but at the same time, his rule became increasingly authoritarian. Savak and political repression. The Shah's secret police, Savak, brutally suppressed opposition groups. Many political activists, students, and religious leaders were arrested. There were also widespread allegations of torture. The United States was aware of these actions, but because of the Cold War, it continued supporting the Shah. The U.S. Embassy hostage crisis in 1979, a group of Iranian students seized the American embassy in Tehran. They took 52 Americans hostage. The crisis lasted for 444 days. The American public became furious, and relations between the two countries effectively turned into open hostility. Great Satan. Ayatollah Khomeini referred to America as the Great Satan. According to him, America wanted to dominate the Muslim world. Meanwhile, the United States began viewing Iran as a dangerous revolutionary state. Iran Air Flight 655 in 1988, a U.S. warship mistakenly shot down Iran Air Flight 655. All 290 passengers were killed. This incident deepened anti-American anger among Iranians. Hezbollah and proxy wars Iran began supporting various allied groups across the Middle East. In particular, it developed close ties with Hezbollah in Lebanon. The United States considers many of these groups to be terrorist organizations. This marked the beginning of what became known as proxy wars. Axis of evil. In 2002, U.S. President George W. Bush declared Iran part of the Axis of evil. The term referred to countries that the United States accused of supporting terrorism, pursuing weapons of mass destruction, threatening global security. The original Axis of evil countries were Iran, Iraq, North Korea. The phrase was inspired by the Axis powers of World War II. This statement significantly worsened relations between America and Iran. The Iraq War and a new reality in 2003, the United States invaded Iraq. After the fall of Saddam Hussein, Iranian influence in Iraq increased significantly. This happened because many Shiite political groups in Iraq had close ties with Iran. As a result, America realized that Iran could not simply be ignored. The Syrian Civil War. During the Syrian Civil War, Iran supported President Bashar al-Assad. Meanwhile, the United States supported various rebel groups. Once again, the interests of the two countries directly clashed. The JCPOA nuclear deal in 2015, Iran and world powers signed a nuclear agreement known as the JCPOA. Under the agreement, Iran would limit its nuclear activities. International sanctions would be eased. The deal created hope for improved relations. Trump and withdrawal from the deal in 2018. U.S. President Donald Trump withdrew from the nuclear agreement. He imposed harsh sanctions on Iran. Iran's economy suffered heavily, and tensions quickly escalated again. The killing of Qasem Soleimani in 2020. Iranian General Qasem Soleimani was killed in a U.S. drone strike. He was one of Iran's most important military leaders. Millions of Iranians attended his funeral ceremonies. Current relations. Today, relations between America and Iran remain extremely tense. The main areas of conflict include Iran's nuclear program, the Israel issue, influence in the Middle East, economic sanctions, proxy groups, human rights concerns. However, a full-scale direct war has still not occurred. Both countries understand that such a war could devastate the entire region. What is the real reason behind the conflict? Now, the question is, what is the real reason behind the hostility between America and Iran? In reality, several major factors lie behind this conflict. Where 1. Oil and geopolitics. Middle Eastern oil is extremely important to the global economy. Iran's strategic location and energy resources make it one of the most important countries in the region. Priority 2. The Islamic Revolution. After the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran presented itself as a revolutionary state opposed to Western influence. This directly challenged American interests in the Middle East. 3. The Israel issue. Iran strongly opposes Israel. Meanwhile, the United States is Israel's closest ally. This creates a major source of tension between the two countries. 4. Struggle for regional influence. Both America and Iran want to expand their influence in the Middle East. As a result, they often support opposing sides in regional conflicts. 5. The 1953 coup, the CIA-backed coup of 1953, still remains a deep source of anger among many Iranians. Many believe that America destroyed Iran's democratic future. The perspective of ordinary people. Interestingly, not all Americans hate Iran, and not all Iranians hate America. Many Iranians admire Western culture. Likewise, many Americans are fascinated by Iranian history and Persian civilization. But political conflict has kept relations between the two nations deeply complicated. Iran's possible future. Now we come to one of the most important questions. What could Iran's future look like in the next 10, 20, or 30 years? Will Iran become an even stronger regional superpower, or will economic crisis and political instability weaken the country? Will the Islamic Republic survive, or could major political change happen in the future? Nuclear power, drone technology, oil, youth movements, the internet, sanctions, and Middle Eastern conflicts, all of these factors place Iran at a historic crossroads today. Iran's current position, modern Iran, exists within a very complex reality. On one hand, the country possesses vast oil and gas reserves, strong military capabilities, advanced missile technology, major influence in the Middle East. A highly educated population. On the other hand, Iran also faces severe international sanctions, high inflation, unemployment, political dissatisfaction, social unrest. Iran's population is now close to 93 million people. Most of the population lives in cities, and the country's young generation remains one of its greatest strengths. Political future. The biggest question regarding Iran's future is, can the Islamic Republic survive in the long term? Under the current system, ultimate power rests with the supreme leader. However, in recent years, Iran has repeatedly witnessed protests, especially among younger generations. Demands for change are growing stronger. Many young people want greater freedom, better economic opportunities, more global connection. 3 possible political scenarios. 1. Survival of the current system. The state may maintain strict control while gradually adapting to new realities. 2. Gradual reform. Iran could become economically more open, similar to China, while still maintaining political control. 3. Major political change, large-scale protests, or major shifts in power could eventually occur. However, Iran's state structure remains extremely powerful today. What happens after Khamenei? One of the biggest questions about Iran's future is, what will happen after Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei? The entire political system is heavily centered around his leadership. After him, power struggles could emerge between religious leadership, the Revolutionary Guard, political factions, reformist groups. Many experts believe the post-Khamenei period could become one of the most critical moments in modern Iranian history. Economic future. Iran's biggest challenge today is its economy because of long-term sanctions. The currency has weakened, foreign investment has declined, unemployment has increased, inflation has risen. Sharply, food prices in particular have become a major burden for ordinary people. However, Iran also possesses significant strengths. Massive energy resources. Iran holds some of the world's largest reserves of oil and natural gas. If sanctions are reduced in the future, Iran could become economically powerful very quickly. Strategic geographic position. Iran is located at the crossroads of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. In the future, it could become a major trade corridor connecting different regions of the world. Relations with China and Russia. Because of tensions with the West, Iran has gradually moved closer to China and Russia. China is highly interested in investing in Iran's energy and infrastructure sectors. Iran's role is also increasing in alliances such as BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, IFOR. The world becomes increasingly multipolar. In the future, Iran may gain new strategic opportunities. The nuclear program. One of the biggest international questions about Iran's future is, will Iran eventually develop nuclear weapons? Iran insists that its nuclear program is peaceful. However, Western countries remain suspicious. 3 possible nuclear scenarios. Either 1. A new nuclear agreement. Iran and Western powers could reach another diplomatic agreement. Or 2. Becoming a threshold nuclear state. Iran may secretly achieve the capability to build nuclear weapons without officially declaring it. 3. Military conflict. If tensions continue rising, a major confrontation with Israel or the United States could occur. This issue may become the single most important factor shaping Iran's future. The future of Iran's military power over the high seas. Last 2 decades, Iran has made major advances in military technology, particularly in drones, ballistic missiles, cyber warfare. Naval strategy. Iran understands that it cannot defeat a superpower like the United States in a direct conventional war. Therefore, it relies heavily on asymmetric warfare. This includes proxy groups, drone attacks, missile strikes, cyber operations. This strategy will likely continue in the future. Influence in the Middle East. Iran is currently one of the most influential powers in the Middle East. Its influence extends across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. Iran will likely continue trying to maintain what is often called the resistance axis. However, this comes with major costs, huge financial expenses, military burdens. Many Iranian citizens believe too much money is being spent abroad instead of solving domestic problems. Youth and social change. Iran's educated young population is one of its greatest strengths. The internet and social media have transformed the younger generation. Today, many young Iranians want more personal freedom, a stronger economy, greater global connection. Social reforms. These changes could create major political pressure in the future. The role of women. No discussion about Iran's future is complete without mentioning women. Women in Iran have high levels of education. Their participation in science, medicine, universities is highly significant. At the same time, strict social restrictions still exist. In recent years, women-led protests have attracted global attention. Women may become one of the main driving forces behind future social change in Iran. Technology and science. Despite sanctions, Iran has achieved significant progress in technology and science, particularly in nanotechnology, drone technology, space research, medical science. Iran has made noticeable advancements. Technological self-sufficiency could become one of Iran's greatest future strengths. Population crisis. Another major long-term challenge for Iran is demographics. The country's birth rate is falling rapidly. Iran's fertility rate is now below replacement level. This means that in the future, the elderly population will grow. The workforce will shrink. Economic pressure may increase. This challenge is similar to demographic problems faced by countries like Japan and South Korea. Internet control and information. Warfare. The Iranian government maintains strict control over the internet. At times, large-scale internet shutdowns have occurred. The government fears that digital platforms can strengthen political movements. However, controlling technology completely may become increasingly difficult in the future. Climate and environmental crisis. Another major challenge facing Iran is the environment. The country is experiencing water shortages, drought, desertification, pollution. These problems are worsening rapidly. Environmental crises could eventually affect both Iran's economy and political stability. Will the age of oil end? The world is gradually shifting toward renewable energy. If oil becomes less important in the future, Iran's economy could face serious challenges. Therefore, one of Iran's most important questions is, can it build a new economy beyond oil? Rescue possible future scenarios. Now, let us imagine several possible futures for Iran. Scenario 1. A strong regional power in this scenario. Some sanctions are reduced. The economy gradually improves. Iran advances further in technology and military power. Alliances with China and Russia become stronger as a result. Iran emerges as one of the dominant powers in the Middle East. Scenario 2. Long-term instability. In this scenario, economic crises continue, protests increase, political divisions deepen, international pressure intensifies. This could push the country into a prolonged period of instability. Scenario 3. Major political change, large-scale reforms, or major changes in power could eventually happen. However, it is difficult to predict whether such changes would be peaceful or violent. Scenario 4. A major regional war. A major war could erupt because of the nuclear issue, conflicts in the Middle East. rising tensions with Israel, America, and Gulf states. Such a conflict could become extremely dangerous for the entire region. Which future is most realistic? Looking at the current situation, Iran is unlikely to completely collapse because the country still possesses a powerful state structure, strong military capabilities, a strong sense of nationalism. Vast natural resources, however, at the same time, economic pressure, social dissatisfaction, international isolation are creating serious challenges for the country. The most realistic future may be gradual change and adaptation. Final thoughts. Friends, Iran's future is not only about one country. It is deeply connected to the future of the Middle East and global politics as a whole. On one side, Iran carries the legacy of the ancient Persian civilization. On the other side, it stands at the center of some of the modern world's most complex political and geopolitical realities. Will Iran become even stronger in the future, or will it face major transformation? Only time can answer that question. But one thing is certain. In the coming decades, Iran will remain one of the most important countries in the world. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. In the next video, we will once again explore another fascinating chapter of history and geopolitics.